Have you ever watched someone become so focused on caring for the person they love that they slowly forgot how to care for themselves? Today, I would like to spend a few minutes talking about someone we don't often talk about. You. Not the person you're caring for, not their diagnosis, not the medications, not the next doctor's appointment, but you. One of the greatest privileges of my work has been working alongside patients and families during some of life's most difficult moments. I've had the honor of sitting with families at the bedside, listening to their stories, answering difficult questions, and helping them navigate some of the hardest decisions they will ever have to make. Over the years, I've noticed something that quietly breaks my heart. When someone becomes seriously ill, it is only natural for everyone's attention to turn towards the person who is sick. We ask how they are feeling. We ask if they're comfortable. We talk about test results, treatment options, medications, and what comes next. And we should. They deserve every bit of our love, attention, and support. But while everyone is watching the patient, I've often found myself watching the caregiver because I've learned that caregivers carry so much more than medications, appointments, and responsibilities. They carry hope. They carry fear. They carry responsibility. They carry difficult decisions. They carry the quiet weight of wanting to do everything they can for someone they love deeply. And sometimes they carry all of that so faithfully that they slowly stop seeing themselves. That's why I wanted to have today's conversation. In today's care navigated conversation, we are going to talk about why this happens, why so many loving caregivers don't even realize it's happening, and why caring for yourself isn't taking something away from the person you love. Instead, it may be one of the most important ways you continue loving them well. Before we dive into today's conversation, if you're new here or you've been part of our community for a while, welcome to Care Navigated. My name is Judy, and I'm a caregiver educator. I'm also a DNP prepared hospice and palliative care nurse practitioner. And I'm also a caregiver for my own mom who lives with kidney failure and receives dialysis. So while I spend my days working alongside patients and families professionally, I also understand what it is like to sit in the family chair, to love someone deeply and want to make the best decision you can for them. Every week, we have conversations that help caregivers better understand serious illness so they can navigate difficult decisions with greater clarity, confidence, and compassion. Here at Care Navigated, we believe that understanding reduces fear and uncertainty. Better questions lead to better conversations, and better conversations lead to better decisions rooted in love, values, and goals. Everything we talk about here is meant to educate, encourage, and help you have more meaningful conversation with your healthcare team. Every caregiving journey is unique. So always partner with your own healthcare team to make decisions that are right for you and the person you love. So let's navigate today's conversation together. A few months ago, I met a husband who has been caring for his wife through serious illness. As we sat together, he told me about her medications, her doctor's appointments, and little changes he had noticed over the past few weeks. He knew exactly which medication she was taking and when she needed them. He knew which food she would still eat and which one she no longer enjoyed. He knew which night she slept peacefully and which night she was awake for hours. It was obvious how deeply he loved his wife. After we have spent several minutes talking about her, I asked him a simple question. And how are you doing? He smiled and quietly replied, I'm doing okay. But as our conversation continued, a different story began to unfold. He told me he couldn't remember the last time he had gone for one of his morning walks. He had stopped meeting friends for breakfast. He had postponed several of his own doctor's appointments. He couldn't remember the last time he had done something simply because it brought him joy. And as I listened to him, one thought kept coming to my mind. Somewhere along the way, he had stopped being a husband who was caring for his wife and had quietly become only a caregiver. I wish I could tell you he was the only person I've ever met like that, but he isn't. Over the years, I've met daughters caring for their mothers, sons caring for their fathers, wives caring for their husbands, and husbands caring for their wives. And though every caregiving journey is different, I've noticed something they often have in common. Somewhere along the way, many caregivers slowly disappear. Not all at once, one small sacrifice at a time. A missed doctor's appointment, a hobby they no longer have time for, coffee with a friend that keeps getting postponed, a vacation they never take, a dream they quietly placed on hold until one day they look in the mirror and they realize they can't remember the last time they cared for themselves. So today, I would like to ask you a question, not as a nurse practitioner, not as someone who has all the caregiving answer, but as someone who has had the privilege of working alongside many patients and caregivers professionally, and as someone who is also a family caregiver. My question to you is, when did you stop caring for yourself? I want you to sit with that question for just a moment. When did you stop caring for yourself? You may know the answer immediately, or you may realize you have been so busy caring for someone else that you haven't even had time to think about yourself. And if that's where you are today, I want you to know something. You are not alone. The truth is, this doesn't usually happen because caregivers stop loving themselves. It happens because they love someone else so deeply. Serious illness doesn't usually ask for one big sacrifice. It asks for hundreds of small ones. One more appointment, one more night of interrupted sleep, one more prescription to pick up, one more difficult decision, one more day of saying, I will take care of myself later. And without even realizing it, later quietly becomes months, sometimes even years. That's why I don't want you to leave today's conversation feeling guilty. I want you to leave feeling understood. Somewhere along the way, many caregivers begin believing something that simply isn't true. They begin believing that if they take time to care for themselves, somehow they are taking something away from the person they love. Or worse, that taking care of themselves means they aren't loving enough. But that's not how love works. Caring for yourself doesn't mean you love the person you're caring for any less. It means you're protecting your ability to continue loving them well. Because when you're physically exhausted, emotionally overwhelmed, or running on empty, everything becomes harder. Hard conversations becomes harder. Decision making becomes harder. Even being fully present with the person you love becomes harder. Taking care of yourself isn't stepping away from caregiving. It is strengthening the caregiver. And sometimes the first step isn't changing everything overnight. Sometimes it is simply recognizing that you matter too. Maybe today, begin with simply saying where you are Take an honest look at how caregiving has changed your own life. Then take a moment to clarify what you need, not just what the person you love needs. Accepting that caring for yourself isn't selfish. It's part of caring well for someone else. Match your caregiving with what is sustainable, not what is possible. And finally, make a plan that includes support for both of you. Because caregiving was never meant to be something you carry alone. Before we end today's conversation, I want to leave you with one thought. Caregivers don't usually lose themselves all at once. It happens slowly, one small sacrifice at a time. But just as you can slowly lose pieces of yourself, you can also begin finding yourself again, one small step at a time, one small decision at a time, one small act of kindness towards yourself at a time. Please remember this. Caring for yourself doesn't compete with loving the person you care for. It protects your ability to continue loving them well. Before your next conversation with your healthcare team, or even before the end of today, I would like you to ask yourself one question. What is one small thing I can do this week that helps me care for myself while I continue caring for the person I love? Sometimes the smallest question opens the door for the biggest change. This week, choose one intentional act of kindness towards yourself. Just one. Maybe it's scheduling your own doctor's appointment. Maybe it's taking a walk. Maybe it's accepting help when someone offers. Maybe it's spending a few quiet moments doing something that brings you peace. Whatever you choose, remember that caring for yourself is not taking something away from the person you love. It's helping you continue loving them well. If today's conversation resonates with you, I would like to give you a free copy of my Caregiver Decision Guide. It is designed to help caregivers ask better questions, feel more confident during medical conversation, and navigate serious illness with greater clarity. And if you would like more in-depth support, my Caregiver Decision Toolkit builds on these conversations and provides practical guidance for caregivers facing complex decisions throughout this serious illness journey. You will find the link in the description below. I hope these resources continue encouraging you long after today's conversation ends. If this conversation encouraged you, I hope you will join our Care Navigated community. Every week, we have conversations that help caregivers better understand serious illness, preserve hope, ask better questions, and navigate difficult decisions with greater clarity, confidence, and compassion. And if there's a caregiving conversation you would like us to have in a future video, I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Because some of the most meaningful conversations begin with a caregiver's question. Remember, you don't have to navigate serious illness alone. Care Navigated is here to help caregivers understand serious illness so they can navigate difficult decisions with clarity, confidence, and compassion. Thank you for being part of our community. Until next time, take good care of yourself and the person you love.